Yeah, so my name's Josh Wolfe and I'm General Manager of Business Affairs at TVNZ. Basically, our role is to work with the international distribution community to buy finished programs for all of our channels and platforms. So we'll be buying, for example, the British dramas and the sort of factual shows like Eat Well for Less that you see on TVNZ1. But we also work really closely with the local production sector to do the deals on the shows that we commission locally. So that's your Snack Masters and your Lego Masters, Celebrity Treasure Island, programs like that. So I'm from Ōtautahi originally, and after school I went to the University of Canterbury and I studied law and communications there. Really loved law, but was primarily wanted to always come into the media industry. So after university, I worked for a company called Whitebait Productions down there, who make What Now, which is obviously a quintessential show that's been around for a long time. And after that, I moved to London and worked in production management over there, primarily for Sky Sports, and then came back. And I've been at TVNZ for 5 years now. I had a 2-year stint in marketing, which was amazing, especially having worked for a subscriber-based company like Sky, coming and working for, a company that's very much in that advertising world was a real learning curve for me. And I've been in the content team now for about 3 years, which is great. It was amazing because it was like having 2 hours of television every Sunday morning just to kind of almost do whatever you want. We had a pretty open brief with What Now, which was awesome. But probably the one thing that stands out is I actually met my partner of 11 years working on What Now. But it was a slightly unusual way to meet because she was actually Camilla the gorilla. And so meeting your partner at 6 a.m. in the morning in a television studio when she's dressed as a giant monkey is definitely pretty unique, and probably not the most conventional way to meet your partner. Like most people in this industry, I've always been a bit of a media buff. Absolutely loved television and film growing up. And in terms of first getting into the industry, I think it was in a uni sort of holidays break one year, and I basically Googled every contact I could find in film and television and just called them. And eventually I got a couple of responses and I ended up getting my first job at What Now, cleaning up the gunge out the back of the studio every Sunday morning. So it was a great part-time uni job. And yeah, I look back on that really fondly. It's the people. So from a professional perspective, the great thing about the role within content at TVNZ is that we're talking a lot with the international distribution community. So we're getting a really good idea of what's happening in the industry internationally, but also because we're working with the local producers as well and the funding bodies and things like that, you build quite a holistic picture of what it's like. But actually the best thing about working for a broadcaster, and especially a company like TVNZ, is the people internally. And a lot of people see the final product on TV, but they don't see what goes into it. And just by its nature, broadcasting attracts a really diverse range of people and thinking, from technology to advertising and marketing. Even in our legal teams, everyone loves television and film. They're bonded by that, but they bring different skills to the table. And of course, we've got our news team as well. So it really makes for every day being very different. So I love walking through the doors at TVNZ each day to work with all the people that are here. Yeah, I think probably like for a lot of other industries, COVID would probably be the one that comes to mind. And it's been tough for a lot of industries, but particularly for our production sector, it's pretty hard to make a scripted drama like, for example, Shortland Street over Microsoft Teams or Zoom. You just can't do it. And you can imagine that obviously there was the issues around the lockdowns, but the issue's still ongoing now. If you have a cast member that gets COVID, you potentially have to shut down for a couple of days. So I think the industry generally has shown real resilience with that over the last couple of years. And I think we can be really proud of all of the amazing content that's come out of New Zealand despite COVID. Yeah, I think for us, the thing that we talk about and think about a lot is how we can continue to engage really well with rangatahi audience. We know that they're consuming a lot of programs on social media and things like that. So we're thinking about what kind of content can we make for them that will bring them to TVNZ, and how can we surface that content to them in a way that works for them. So we talk a lot about that, and it's very much front of mind when we're thinking about new and more innovative content. I think New Zealand is so good at scripted comedy. We've seen with shows like Flight of the Conchords and more recently with Wellington Paranormal and other shows like Educators that there's a real demand in the world for that content. So it creates a really, it creates obviously cultural benefits, but also economic benefits to the country as well when we sell those shows overseas. But just personally, I really would like to see more sort of premium factual content that explores serious issues, but also isn't afraid to have a bit of a laugh along the way. And I think a good example of that was Chris Parker's Back to School series from earlier in the year, where, it was really entertaining and humorous, but also there were some quite serious points made in that. And personally, that's the kind of telly that I really love. So obviously, as a massive film buff, it really excited me earlier in the year. I travelled to Los Angeles to visit all of the Hollywood studios. And TVNZ have content deals with most of the Hollywood studios, so NBC, Universal and Paramount and Sony. And as part of the trip, it was a business trip, but we got to visit all of the studio lots and to be on sort of that hallowed turf and walk around some of the studios where so many amazing shows and films have been made over the years was pretty awesome. And yeah, it was just, for me, it was a bit of a case of trying not to fanboy out too much and remember that I was there to do a job. But yeah, it was heaps of fun. I would just say to try and build as many contacts as you possibly can, and don't be afraid to just drop people a cold call or an email. It can feel a bit intimidating, but I've found over the course of my career that actually when you reach out to people, people are often very generous with their time in this industry. So that would be my recommendation, just to make as many contacts as you can and be ready to say yes and put yourself out of your comfort zone.